Hey guys, Smith City here for Smith City Product Reviews. Well, I'm back with Jamieson's XBA, their brown ale. I'll just, before I start the review, just sort of explain what Jamieson is. It is a small town in Victoria, Australia. It is located at the junction of the Goulburn River and the Jamieson River, 193 kilometres northeast of Melbourne. The name is believed to have been derived from George Jamieson, a shepherd who grazed sheep in the area in the 1850s. At the time of the 2016 census, Jamieson had a population of 301. So there it is, guys. Obviously went there with a work trip. My boss has a getaway shack up in Kevington. Kevington pub closed down or was sold. I'm not too sure. If anyone from the area knows the story behind all that, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments section. Obviously keep it respectable. But yeah, we had a pub meal at the Jamieson pub. The staff there were absolutely friendly. I got to try a few of their beers, just like a little taste tester, because I said who I was and whatnot. And then I bought this Jamieson singlet and a couple of beers to take home to review. So it's got a black bottle cap there. I absolutely love the colours there, the mountain there. So I'll open it up and we'll see what we have. Jamieson pub or brewery was closed for 5 months during COVID, and I understand like lots of places had been affected by that. So, but from that perspective, I understand that it's a very long way away. It's sort of in the middle of not a lot of places, and so the foot traffic that they would have got from just general people coming through, they may not have had the luxury of other breweries around here where they're able to can stuff, get the cans into bottle-os, and to be able to keep generating business. And so if you guys find the time to get away somewhere, I highly recommend Kevington as a place to stay, or Jamieson as a place to stay, and also check out the Jamieson pub there. So get it into a beer glass and we'll see what we have. Now, obviously tried this with my Palmer. Great Palmer, by the way. Absolutely fantastic, decent size, nice bit of ham on there. Chips were pretty good. Salad accompanied it, was pretty good. So, as you can see there, it's got less than a 1 finger head. Sort of looks like, guys. Have a bit of a sniff. Be interesting to see what my opinions of it compared to, because I absolutely loved it, but I was probably about 6 cans deep trying it. So be interesting to see what I actually think of it sober. It's very roasty. It's got quite a nice nuttiness to the aroma. Roasty, toasty, quite inviting. Having said that, there was good weather, other than obviously the last night where it pissed down with rain. But in terms of the temperature, the whole time away was quite lovely, considering the first time I went there, we had snow up on the mountain. So, but this was quite enjoyable drink to drink in a hotter climate, like 22, 23 degrees. So, which is normally this style of beer I sort of like to drink on more of a colder evening. But I suppose if you're in Jamieson or Kevington, you probably are getting colder evenings. So that's enough talking. We'll get into it. Cheers. Just trying to trying to pick it apart. It's got very nice roasted malt characteristics, and so there is quite a nice, almost like a dark chocolate bitterness going on. It's got quite a nice coffee aroma and taste. It is quite nutty. This is definitely my cup of tea. Obviously the boys that I go on the trip with, they're just your standard generic beer drinkers that anything outside of a VB, Carlton Draft, Carlton Dry, they're not interested. But this is definitely my cup of tea, this one right here. So it is 5.5%. It's in a 330ml bottle. Locally crafted and curated, 100% natural beer. Check them out on Jamieson Brewery, that is Jamieson Brewery, or Jamieson Brewery, same spelling.com. 1.4 standard drinks. Jamieson Brewery, Party Limited, 5953 Ilden, Jamieson Road, Jamieson, Victoria, 3723. Preservative free, no artificial colourings, best before date below, which yeah, it's on there. I just can't make it out because of the glare and the sheen on the glass from the liquid. So when you're pushing up from like 5.2 to let's say 5.5, especially with a beer like this, it's quite roasty and toasty and nice and warm and sort of all those characteristics that you sort of love in a brown ale, is if you start creeping up the alcohol content on them, they sort of tend to push away from being something that's sessionable. I think this falls somewhere in between that, because as you can see, I'm getting through it pretty quick. But I also think it's a very nice style of beer to sort of sit down by on a chair, by a campfire, with a nice jacket on, maybe a beanie, maybe some trackies, or some warm pants and some warm socks. And just sit back and sip at your own pace. So I feel like it's probably best suited to that. But in terms of drinking it with more of a pace than that, you still can do that with this sort of beer. So it's good. It's good on both aspects, which is good. Love to know how they brewed it, because as you can see there, it had a very tiny head, but it does have a pretty good mouthfeel, because you can see that on the glass there, how that head, even though it was still tiny, it's pretty much almost very similar to what it was when I poured it. But that head sort of just has stuck around, and it does coat that glass, which obviously does coat your mouth as you're drinking it, lingering some of those roasted malt elements on the back end. Releasing more of that flavour. This is really good. I've got their BEAST IPA to review. I did think about doing a dual review, but I'm waiting for my wife's COVID test to come back. If it comes back today, I wouldn't mind heading to the gym in a few hours. So probably not the best idea to be drinking 5.5 and then drinking a 7.8 ABV beer and then heading to the gym if I'm allowed to. So I'll do that on another review. Drinkability. for how the drinkability for how much depth of flavour it has in this beer is fantastic. That's why I'm led to believe that you could probably enjoy it on a hotter climate day and still be happy with it, and probably drink multiples of it, as well as being able to drink a fair few on a colder evening outside whilst you're trying to stay warm. So it sort of covers both aspects there. So really check them out. Check out their website. If they do sell merchandise on their website, feel free to support them. Look, I'm caught in between. My opinion on supporting small businesses is very subjective, probably to the next person, because obviously I run a small business, but if I was somehow to make that business be really successful, I'd just hate people not to use me because all of a sudden I've gotten big. And that's why I'll still like review fast food chains reviews and that sort of stuff, or I'll occasionally more than convenience than anything, because where you're at working, you don't just have like a small cafe that's pops up. So, you know, you generally will have a coffee at some fast food chains here and there. You can't really avoid it. But you'd hate for people to actually think that, oh, you're not supporting local businesses because you're putting money into big businesses. And at some point, small businesses, if they do everything they need to do and adapt and change and find ways to become successful, at some point they're going to become a big business. Now, would I buy this beer when they're a big business? Bloody oath. So it shouldn't really matter. But from a standpoint of if they're struggling and you like beer and you like breweries and you'd hate to see something like that closed down, like the Kevington pub. Now, I'm not too sure the ins and outs of that. So like I said, if the guys at Jamieson pub watch this, or anyone that's local to that area watches this, I'd love to actually get an in-depth knowledge of what's going on. Like, did the owner sell it? And then he's got rid of a headache, and then the foot traffic of Kevington pub being no longer, obviously going to go to Jamieson. So maybe Jamieson pub, even though they'll close for 5 months, gets more foot traffic and actually becomes more successful because of the lockdown. Just, you know, everything has sort of a silver lining, I feel, in life. And whilst there may have been lots of anguish and pain and suffering within maybe the Kevington pub shutting down, because I don't really want to be insensitive of that, but also if that actually helps the Jamieson pub be successful, well then I'd hate for the Jamieson pub people, their patrons and their owners, to actually feel guilt about that they were able to actually make their business more successful because of something else that happened that was out of their control. So I've gone off on a massive tangent here, but that's me. I need to get t-shirts made up. Here I go again, going off on a tangent. Rating. I'm going to give it a straight solid 9. It is fantastic. It is a really good beer. I like the colour scheme on the bottle, gold, white and grey. I love the mountain little icon there up the top. It's pretty simplistic. It doesn't say what it is, which I actually like, because then there's no fear of me when I'm trying to look for things on here to say I don't accidentally read what I'm trying to guess, because obviously I want to give my honest opinion on something as opposed to just reading off the bottle and being one-dimensional in my reviews, because I obviously want to do it from my experience as opposed to what's on the package. Then I like to read what's on the package and hopefully it coincides. If it doesn't, well then I can pick that apart and then that can make the review go for longer. But look, I've smashed that out. I've smashed it out. It's a 9. It's good. It's great. It's fantastic. Two other beers that I tried, didn't obviously take stuff home, was their red ale and their raspberry sour. They were fantastic. They were really good, especially their red ale. I only got to have a little sample, and I'm appreciative of that, because like even within that like couple of 2 small sips, I was able to pick apart what was going on there in those drinks, in those little taste testers. And I'd be happy to drink both of those again, because they were absolutely fantastic. So if you're in the area, okay, so I'm going to be controversial here. I know breweries and I know pubs and stuff like do upmarks on what they're selling, so they are going to make a profit. But I probably wouldn't say it would be a lot. I don't know, like I'd like to hear from you guys at Jamieson. I'd love to be able to pick apart the industry a little bit. Would you actually make more from sales if people were actually buying your products, or would you do you make an F ton of money from people buying like your generic beers on tap, like Great Northern or VB or Draft or Carlton Dry or whatever? Like, I'd love to know the ins and outs of it, because it is fascinating to me. Because if people are going in and they're just drinking their very generic drinks, it might become financially unviable for Jamieson to actually brew their own drinks. And so I would hate for something like this to never be made again, and all they do at that pub is just sell the same beer that you get at every other pub. So I'd love to hear from people at Jamieson Pub, Kevington Pub, or anyone in between those areas. I'd love to hear you guys engage with this video. But yeah, it's a 9 from me. Absolutely smashed that down and quite enjoyed it. Cheers.